What's going on, guys? Seth and Chevy here. We just watched episode 2 of season 1 of Solo Leveling. We're going to be going full spoilers ahead, so hopefully you've watched this episode. We're going to do a real quick recap. Continuation from the last episode. Our dungeon raiding party basically got trapped in a room with some giant statues that are basically killing all of them. We start off in that situation where it had just shot a laser and annihilated people. Somebody else makes a run for it and gets murdered instantly. They realize that it can kill them at any second, but it's not for some reason. So they're trying to figure out why they are just kind of hanging out, not dying. They start thinking about on the stone some commandments that were put there. One of them was, I forgot what it was called. One of them was praise. I think it's the second one. The first one was Revere
God or something like that.
Yeah, and so basically they think about it and they try bowing to the statue that is killing everybody. It seems to have at least changed the scenario where the thing is standing now, and its face has changed. It's not, shooting a laser everywhere, but it's starting to walk at them. And so they think about the next phase on the commandments, which was, I believe, praise. One guy kind of decides, because he's been studying something, I forgot, that he's going to try and praise it. It basically walks up and just steps on him like an ant. And they realize it's just going to start murdering them. So everybody starts running, freaking out. People are getting killed. And they kind of realize that it's not this thing that they're supposed to be praising. They are basically trying to activate.
No, it's that praying isn't the praise it wants. It wants song as praise.
Yeah, but it's those statues that have to do it.
Yeah, and so when he was looking, he saw there are weapon statues and instrument statues.
Yep.
So he gets the idea to stand in front of the instrument ones.
Yeah, so they run up to them, and some of them are activating, but him and Jihu,
Healer.
I don't remember her name, but I'm close though, I think. They realize that the one they're both at isn't activating, so they decide to split up. Jinwoo, I think that's the main guy's name. I was calling him Sung last episode, but I realized that's his last name. He goes to run to the other one while she stays behind. Hers activates, so it kind of confirms that there needs to be individual people at the statues. On his way there, he ends up getting his legs smashed by the giant statue that's walking around. But he is able to activate his statue, which activates a whole new part of this MMO boss fight that they are basically finding mechanics for. At the third phase, it needs a sacrifice. It's not really, I forgot the wording for it, but basically someone's supposed to be sacrificed. After talking, they come to the conclusion that the leader of the group was going to do it, right?
Yeah, it was prove your faith, basically.
Yeah. And so he's going to go sacrifice himself because he feels responsible, even though they did vote to come in here. He walks to a circle. The circle does something, but it's not doing anything really. So they're trying to figure that out. Although I believe, was it at that point or before they get in there that one guy tries to run out the door? Do you remember?
I think that was before this.
Or the girl. The girl goes running out the door, right?
This is a little later, yes.
Yeah.
That happens. So
yeah, but that's after they all get in the circle, right?
Yes,
or before?
Yes.
Okay.
She's the first one to leave.
Yeah, so they all get in the circle, and they start having the statues basically walking at them. One of the girls gets scared, and the door is open, runs out and it closes a little bit. So they start kind of brainstorming on what that means, if it's safe to even go out there. Do they need to stay here? And Jinwoo realizes that they have to keep staring at the statues, otherwise they'll keep pursuing them. But as people are staying there getting more and more freaked out, people are running out the door, not really knowing what's out there, but they're just going because they're freaking out. Eventually gets down to I forgot his name, the leader and the healer and the main guy who only has one leg at this point. And the leader guy tells them they should run away because he's basically going to do what he said he's going to do and just stay behind. But in the last moments, Jinwoo decides that they should go because the healer chick, her legs have given out from stress or from healing. She's not able
Exertion,
to.
yeah.
She's not able to walk on her own. So he tells him basically, who's going to carry her out? I can't do it. So the leader decides to do it, and they leave. Throughout this whole thing that's happening, we get a couple flashes over to Jinwoo's sister, just kind of living life. She's not really living a pretty stress-free life where she's at. But
we basically see his what he's got to live for.
yeah,
at home.
throughout the episode. But yeah, it's just funny how she's just like laughing, having a normal life. Like, my brother gets beaten up sometimes in dungeons, and he's just off getting his leg ripped off and shit. So we see a little bit of his outside life with his sister and his mom, which he had mentioned in the last episode. Basically, the end of the episode is Jinwoo getting fucked up. They start chopping pieces off of him, stabbing him. Dude just screaming. And also, this episode was way more gory than I was expecting. But we obviously haven't seen the manhwa, so didn't know what to expect. Sure. And by the end of the episode, he is put onto the center platform, and he gets sliced down the center by one of the statues. And then we have a quick little moment of some kind of UI saying that you've been chosen to be a player, and you have like some odd seconds to decide if you accept that or not. And it ends with him clicking yes, or at least highlighting yes. And then it ended. So something happened with him. And kind of interesting because the whole time we've been watching this, we've been discussing that it basically just kind of feels like they're playing an MMO. So really interesting. So thoughts?
Well, this episode was a prime example of why sometimes you should give anime 3 episodes. So,
yeah,
because the first episode was okay. This episode was much better.
First episode laid a very simple premise, which I appreciated.
Yeah.
It was pretty straightforward, but yeah, what happened and I was just like, yeah, I'll give it another episode to see where this goes. But
yeah, this one was way more interesting. Also, It definitely showed that people can die and not in pleasant ways, which some people are going to like, some aren't going to like.
It definitely had an Attack on Titan way of just murdering people off in uncomfortable ways.
But overall, I enjoyed it. I like the it reminds me of an MMO raid where it's hard, and then once you learn it, it's actually super easy. You just didn't know the hoops to jump through. And
exactly
the part that drives me nuts, obviously, as a viewer, is all these people. If they would have just stayed, no one would have died, and they all would have gotten power ups, I assume, which is going to happen to this guy.
Yeah. Solo leveling,
because with the last step being, they all assumed it was sacrifice, but it never mentioned sacrifice. It just said prove your faith, which was a test of courage, and they just had to wait for the timer to go away. And right before the sword hits this guy at the end, the timer ends, and that's why we got this prompt. So, it's interesting that if they all would just hung out, it would have been a whole different story.
Unless there wasn't room for more than one, but we don't know. He's just the only one who was stuck behind.
Right, we only know.
He had to basically earn whatever's coming to him.
Yeah, he just had to last the timer, and he did.
And he got fucked up for it.
He almost died, but he was alive when the timer ended. So, yeah, and then just the fact that it was just basically follow the rules and live. There wasn't actually a fight. So
just do the mechanics.
Just shows,
stay in the circles.
As the VA who was acting his ass off
he did a really good job.
Yeah, describing all these people, all this suffering was due to selfishness, and all these people didn't actually care about others; they just cared about themselves, and now people had to die because of it. So. Yeah, crazy.
This in 2 episodes, I'm just like, why isn't this an actual video game? It's interesting that they basically are going on Oblivion portal raids. They're getting equipped. They go into them. It's set up like a video game, and it seems like it is because at the end it kind of implies that somebody is clicking on things and deciding things.
Or at the very least, the alternate dimension is very video game-like.
Yeah,
so.
But which is weird, but there's like a loot, like they're finding shit. There's an end boss they have to beat, and there's a time limit to do it. And then they found a secret dungeon, basically, and they said that even though they were in a what was it, an E or a D dungeon?
Is it E?
That this one they're speculating was either an A or an S dungeon, and that they went in there. He's basically going to be rewarded for it. He found like a secret dungeon that's going to give him rewards, whatever it's going to be after this. I don't know if it's actually going to be a reward or not, but
I assume it's what the catalyst of the intro version of him is.
Well, I was about to say, whatever the reward is, I have to assume it is, because in the intro they kind of showed him flipping around doing a bunch of crazy shit.
Yeah.
So I assumed he'd get more powerful, but the intro definitely let us know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Definitely. But yeah, I mean, overall, a lot more interesting. I am looking forward to what that prompt entails, obviously. And fortunately, we will be able to just jump right into that after this.
we did learn an important little tidbit too, that when the timer gives up on the raid, if they're not successful in beating the boss, the monsters in the dungeon are allowed to leave.
Yeah.
Which is very gamey, but also kind of fun that there's a system like that. Because yeah, I like video games, so I'm like, oh, that's an interesting thing, even though it's, feels so designed that, and we don't know why, but that it feels kind of cheesy, but also I kind of like it. So
it's a weird example. I know you haven't watched it, but like Shield Hero is an anime that feels a lot like a video game, right? And it even treats a lot of it like a video game for the main characters, but then like the people living in that world, not so much. So this kind of almost feels the same way in some ways. So
yeah, so it's interesting. It's a cool little tidbit. Very very gamey, but yeah, we learned that. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I mean, that's pretty much it. It's a pretty straightforward episode. It was just mostly,
I hope it stays this straightforward. I kind of like it, that I don't have to think a whole lot.
Well, and then as someone who like enjoys playing and raiding and MMOs and stuff like that, it drives me nuts that they literally had the cheat sheet and no one could follow directions, which just is ironic.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, maybe the people who made this are, I mean, if they're in South Korea, it kind of makes sense. There's a lot of MMOs out of South Korea, so that's probably a huge inspiration. But definitely felt like that when like the raid couldn't fucking get organized and listen. So
it was obnoxious. Anyways, I enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to watching more now. So.
Yeah, if I were to kind of give like a number rating of the first episode, I'd probably give like a 4, and this one felt like a 7.5 to me. So it's quite an increase in how good it was. I'm still not fully in love with it, but I was interested. The first episode, I was kind of giving it a try, and I'm like, it's kind of interesting, the rule set, but like
it had way too much hype.
The main, with all that hype, and then like the main character, and it's the beginning, I get it, but like the main character is like really kind of cucky, but which is whatever. But this episode, he seemed a little more interesting, but also the scenario and seeing kind of the tone of the show moving forward, that they not only will just murder people off, which I was expecting since the first episode, they're going to kill everybody. I assumed it was going to be like an Eclipse situation from Berserk where everybody just gets murdered, except for I don't know any of these people. But the gore factor was interesting. They really detailed some blood effects that I thought was kind of gross. So they're intentionally trying to make it gross looking, because like there's one scene where a dude is dead, and you watch the blood pool down his eye lid into the corner of his eye and then start dripping down his face, and I'm like, oh, you want this to be gross.
Also, when the girl got stepped on, the blood was sticky on the thing's foot, which was gross.
Also you saw the foot impact her face before she got smashed, and I was like, oh, okay, like you guys are really animating this, which is cool. I'm not opposed to that kind of shit at all. Same. I just was not expecting how gory it was going to be, so I was like, the guy with the family got sliced down the center, and it's pretty brutal.
Fucking bro looks like he's from a different era.
Yeah, that guy was a dork, but I don't think he deserved to get wrecked like that.
No, yeah, for sure.
But
his character design was so goofy.
I was thinking it's funny these people go on these raids, but they don't bring any kind of like armor or anything like that. Like I know like they're all like basically working men, like lower,
magic, dude.
Like middle class, lower class people. But
it's also modern day, so yeah.
Well, you'd like go into an alleyway, find some fucking metal in a trash can or something, and make some shit. Like
you could also wear like a bulletproof vest or something, I guess.
Yeah, like that one chick's wearing like a fur coat and shit.
They emphasized in the first episode that equipment doesn't like the guns and stuff like that, munitions don't affect the monsters, so maybe armor doesn't work either.
Yeah, well, until they confirm that, I'm gonna be like, why aren't you guys?
Why agree?
Thinking about the hazards at your job. I'm not picking it apart. I just think it's funny. But yeah, the episode was good. I actually really enjoyed it. I liked. It's funny because we're watching Delicious and Dungeon right now, and if you guys want to watch our reviews of that, we're doing that actively. But we just did episode 3, so check that out. Delicious and Dungeon feels like a D&D campaign, and this feels like an MMO. So it's really interesting to be watching two animes that have similar vibes, but they're different because one feels like it's more like you enter a room. You got to strategize the room. It's like you're discussing with your friends while you're playing D&D, and there's a DM and stuff. And then this one just feels like you have there's literally a quest that they're on, because at the end of the episode it said your quest was completed.
Side quest.
Yeah, but because they went in that weird side dungeon, and then like there's a boss battle. There was ads. There was mechanics in the boss that they had to figure out. People had to cooperate. Like, it just feels like a video game. So it's really interesting.
I mean, the show is called Solo Leveling as well.
Yeah. Well, I also it kind of reminded me of what was that really popular anime years ago, back when there's like no good anime, but it came out around the time Attack on Titan came out. Everybody was it's like an MMO or something.
You're talking about Sword Art?
Yeah. Yeah, when I heard the name Solo Leveling, my first thing was like, I was going to be like Sword Art Online or something, like a video game anime. And it might be. I don't know. We'll find out. But it's interesting. It's interesting to kind of see the difference between the two anime we're watching right now, the animes. But anyway, I like the episode. The gore was interesting. The figuring it out factor was fun. Because, I'm left guessing, like, what do they got to do? What do they got to do? I think it made the main character a little more interesting than he was before, because he just sucks in the first episode. But in this episode, he just kind of sucks and embraces that he sucks in order to, like, basically almost sacrifice himself to figure out the situation. And so that made him a little more interesting.
The fact that he's the only guy there with a brain.
Yeah.
Jesus.
And the art style of the statues was interesting, because when the one stood up and his face turned crazy, it's pretty creepy looking. I liked the design.
Yeah, I liked it.
And even they were like, "Oh, it got scary looking," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's pretty creepy looking. It doesn't look friendly."
Unfortunately, I've seen that picture a lot. So
yeah, I haven't, but yeah. But yeah, overall, good episode. I definitely am interested in watching the next episode to see where it goes. I am curious to see where the show can go once we figure out what the hell's going on with the main character, because I don't know where the bigger story can go, because nothing's been introduced yet outside of what's happening with the main guy. So
I mean, my speculation is his reward is being the solo or only person who can level after this. So because no one else can.
I feel like other people are probably gonna be able to do it too, though. But he's definitely going to be the guy.
Yeah, because everyone's locked in. They keep emphasizing that, and then like the show's called Solo Leveling, so I just kind of assume his reward is to not be locked in.
Solo
and
level.
And then the wording at the end too, where it says like unlock the ability to be a player, which does make everyone sound like NPCs. NPCs don't level, and if he's a player, maybe he unlocks the ability to actually level and stuff. And I think that's kind of where it's going.
That's what I was saying too when it said that. I was like, so they're NPCs, he's a player, but there could be other players as well.
There could be.
That we find out maybe they're solo leveling as well.
Which is a very like, what was that, Overlord-esque thing. But that's another game-based show though.
So yeah, a lot of questions. But
speculation, which I don't usually like to do, but it seems pretty obvious.
Also, last note, there was some pretty decent animation.
Pretty typical A1.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So yeah, definitely happy with that. Wasn't bad. Yeah, I think that's everything. Got anything else?
Nope. I'm definitely interested to get answers. So
yeah, same. So we'll watch the next episode, and we'll get that review out soon. So make sure to stay tuned for that. We obviously have a lot to talk about. But let us know in the comments, what did you guys think about this episode? What were some of the biggest highlights for you? What do you think about how it all kind of unfolded? And where do you think it's going to go? Except for at this point, you probably watched the third episode, or you've read, or looked at the manga, whatever the hell you do with that. And no spoilers though, please. We have not interacted with the manhwa thing. So yeah. Until the next episode, we will talk to you guys later.